Hey, Sunny here. We are going to cover the second movement of Air on a G string, the Dominic Miller arrangement. So you play the first movement twice, which I cover in my first lesson video. And after you play it twice, this is the second movement we'll cover here. And the first measure of second movement starts in on the A chord. All right, it goes like this. All right, so that's the first two measure. Again, you try to let the notes rain out as long as possible. You can tell when you play the piece or when you practice it which note sounds better if it rains out. And then there are some and then you run into a situation where it's impossible to let the note rain out because your fingerings have to change. So you just have to play around with it and try to, whenever possible, just let the notes rain out as long as you can, and you will know which note it is. Again, so the first measure, we start on open A and B2. You play those two notes together. Open A, B2. And you got to do it really quickly. Once you play that, you play the open B with your index finger, and then you play B2 again with your middle finger or your right hand. So it goes like this. Alright. And then you put your index finger on the second fret and you play D2 and G2. Your thumb on the D string, D2, and then pluck up on the G2 with your index finger. And then you play the third fret on the low E string with your middle finger. Next part is a little tricky. While you try to let that note rain out as long as you can, and then you play this melody here. Alright, so you play the B3, B2, G4, B2, G2. And on the right hand, what I'm doing here is I play the index finger and the middle finger on B3 and B2. Middle finger, B3, index finger, B2. And then I play G4 with my pinky on G4, and I play with my right hand with index finger. And I play B2 with my right hand middle finger, and my index finger on my left hand stays in the second position. And then you play the last note, which is a G2, with my index finger on the right hand. So again, that part goes like this. So first measure slowly. It goes like this. Alright, so that's first measure. After you play that, you go to second measure. You shift your hand up. Index finger will be on the 4th fret of your D. Pinky on the 5th fret of your E, high E, and play those two notes together. And you play G5 with your ring finger of your left hand. And then you play the open B string. And this time you kind of shift your fingers a little bit. You play the 5th fret on the G string again, but with your pinky. Second fret of your D with your thumb. And you pluck the 5th fret of your G string again with your index finger on the right hand. Open B string, middle finger on the right hand, and 5th fret again with your index finger on on your right hand. So the second measure goes like this. Sorry. Alright. Sometimes what I do is, sometimes I find that it's really hard to, when I play the pinky on the 5th fret on the G string, it kind of blocks and deadens the note on the on the B string. So when I play the open B string, I kind of lift my index finger up so I can let the B string play and let it rain out. So I kind of lift my pinky up so give it some room to play the open B string, and I put my pinky back on 5th fret and play that. So again, the first and second measure together goes like this, slowly. Alright, one more time. See, I lift up my middle finger, and that bass note did not rain out. It doesn't sound right. So let me do it again. Alright, so that's the first 2 measure. Third measure. Fourth measure. Alright, so third measure, you play the 6th fret on the A string with your right hand on the thumb, and then you play the G5 with your index finger on the left hand, and you plug it with your index finger of your right hand, and then you play high E7 with your pinky of your left hand, and you plug up with your middle finger on the right hand, and then you play the I leave my pinky on the 7th fret, and I play the 4th fret on the A string with my thumb, and then I move my hand down and I play A2 and B4 together. My thumb and my middle finger with my right hand, and then we play high E5, high E3, and high E2 in a row. And just play with your index finger and middle finger alternatively. Go. And then you play D2, B4, high E2 together. So what I do is I play on my right hand, use my thumb, plays down on the 2nd fret on the D, and same time I'm playing the B4 with my index finger, and high E2 with my middle finger up, so all 3 fingers together. Okay, and then you play open B string and high E3 together, just those 2 notes. And then you play open D, and then you play high E string 2, 2nd fret and open high E, and then play 3-2-0 on the B string. Alright, so that's and then you ends on this chord. Basically is A4, D2, and G3. And again, I'm using my thumb, my index, and my middle finger. Plug those 3 notes together. Alright, so measure 3 and 4 again, slowly. So to continue that part, that brings us into measure 5. So let me play 3, 4 again and goes into 5. Okay. Alright, so after you play this chord, and then you play open B and B2. And then you play A2, B3, open high E. My index finger on A2 and my ring finger on B3. So that's the 5th measure. And the 6th measure goes like this. Okay, so that's the 6th measure. Play 1st fret on the A string, and then I play the 2nd fret of B and high E with my ring finger and my pinky on my left hand, and I pluck up with my index finger and middle finger on the right hand. And you play the 3rd fret of your high E string, and you play A4, G3 together. And then you play A1, B2, high E2 together. Alright. So that's measure 5 and 6. Again, measure 5 and 6. Okay, so we covered 6 measure so far. Start from the beginning, goes like this. We'll play from measure 1 to 6 slowly. I'm sorry. Oop. It ends on yeah. So it's A1, B2, high E2. Alright, so that's the first 6 measure. Measure 7 and 8 goes like this. Alright, so that's measure, again, is 7 and 8. Let me play one more time. Alright, so what we're doing here, index finger of your left hand on 2nd fret of your A and D, and pinky on the 5th fret of your B string. Pluck those, and I will play A2, D2, B5 together, those 3 notes. How do I play that with my right hand? My thumb downstroke plays down on this A2. My index finger goes up on D2, and my ring finger on my right hand goes up on the 5th fret of your E. So play those 3 notes. Okay, and then you play the B3 with my middle finger on the right hand, middle finger on my left hand too. And then I play 2nd fret of your D and B together. I'm using my thumb and my index finger on my right hand, while my hand is still barring on the 2nd fret on my left hand. barring on the second fret of the on the guitar. And then you play the G4 with my middle finger on the right hand. And then you move hand down just a little bit, and you play low E2, G3, and B2 together. And I play and then I use my middle finger on my right hand and play the 3rd fret on the B string. Slide up to 5th fret real quick. Okay, and then play back down again. This time you play low E2, G3, and B3. And while you're still in that position, you lift up your pinky on the left hand, and then you play the 2nd fret of your B string with your left hand, and you pluck that note with your middle finger of your right hand. Alright, so that's measure 7. Again, goes like this. Slowly again. Alright, and the next part, or we can just do it like this. My left hand is on A2, G4, and B3. I'll play those 3 notes together, and I hammer on and pull off from the 3rd fret of your B to 2nd fret of your B, because your index finger is barring all the 2nd fret. You're just kind of using the. Okay, so goes like this. And you play the 4th fret of your G, and then open A, and switch my position like this. You have to use pinky on the 4th fret of your G. I'll tell you why in a minute. And you play the G4 and middle finger on B3, back to G4. Alright, so that's measure 8. So measure 7 and 8 put together goes like this. Alright, so the next part, it will kind of explain why we're doing that, because you have to use your ring finger to play the 4th fret of your low E string. And then this is measure 9 now. So you have to play low E4 and G4, B3. So low E4 with my ring finger, pinky on G4, middle finger on B3. Okay, play those 3 notes together, and then you'll play just G4, B3 with your index finger and middle finger on the right hand. And then you play the 4th fret again on the low E string just by itself. 2nd fret of your low E. And then notice that my hand is in this position right here when I do that. Make sure you bar your index finger down all the way down to your high E string, and you pluck the high E string while my index finger is laying on it, and then you play B5 and B3. Okay, so that was measure 9. So to put 7, 8, 9 together again, here it goes slowly. right, so that's that. So that's measure 7, 8, 9. Measure 10. After you play the end of measure 9, you got to move really quick up to high E7 with your pinky, and then you play A7 with your middle finger, with my right hand on the thumb, and then D6 with my thumb. Well, play the D6 with my index finger on the left hand, but you play it with your thumb on the right. And open B string, I use my middle finger on my right hand. Okay, and then you use the middle finger on the 7th fret. You slide down, but you don't really slide. Okay, you just play the 5th fret on the A string, and you play the D6 again with your thumb. And I use my index finger and play high E5 and high E4 next to each other. Okay. The next measure. Okay. So what I'm playing here is I play A4, high E2 together, and you play open high E string, and you play the 5th fret of your high E. Gotta do it quickly. So on my right hand, I use my middle, alternate right index finger. I'm sorry, middle finger, index, middle finger. So, I'm sorry. And then play the set. After you do that, while my pinky is still on the 5th fret on the high E string, I play G2 with my index finger on the right hand, and then you play open D and B string together, and then you play D2, G1, and then you play B2 and 3. And I just use my same finger. I use my middle ring finger on the left hand. Play 2 and 3 like that. All right, so that's what measure was that? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So that was measure 11. So let's go through measures 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 4 measure together. Okay, slowly. Let's go and finish it. One more measure right here. What I'm doing here is I play open A and then G2, B2 together, and then you do the hammer-on pull-off on the 3rd fret of your B string, just like that. And then you play open B, and you play low E3 and B2 together. Open B and then G2. So it goes like this. Okay, so that is half. So we cover half of second movement. So let's go through from measure 1 through, let's see what we did 12 measures. So we'll do measure 1 through measure 12 together. All right, from the top. I'm stuck again. Okay, so that's the first 12 measure of second movement.